Welcome everyone to the unconventional path. It's been a while, life has been lifing, so we've had the summer off, but we are back, and this series is going to be so amazing for you because in the unconventional path, I'm doing a 5-part series. That's right, a 5-part series on wellness, and I'm talking all about our health and health in different areas. And so before we get into this episode, I want to give a shout out to Jiggy Studios. Thank you. It's always great rocking with you every single week. And so today, the first part of health that we're going to talk about is our spiritual health. And when I started to write my values, I think it was like 2013, and health was one of the top 5 that God wanted me to put in there. And I was just like, I thought about my health. I worked out fairly regularly. But other than that, I didn't really have a real conscious awareness of health. But every time I wrote down my 5 values, God always said, I need you to put health on there. And over, I would say the last few months, probably the beginning of this year, I began to take health a lot more seriously, especially over the last few weeks of the different areas of health. And I am in I wouldn't call it a workout program. It's more of a health wellness program. And I have a coach, shout out to Coach Krish and all the ladies in the wellness program. And her program focuses on not just physical weight loss, but health in general. And so that's how come I wanted to dive into health. And I want to talk about the ways that I knew that I was lacking in these areas. And so if you saw the title before you came into this episode, the title was, Are You Willing for God to Make You Uncomfortable? And so how I knew that I needed a spiritual checkup or to work on my health when it came to the spiritual part of my life, I realized that I needed to go deeper with Christ at the end of 2022. So November 2022, you've seen the videos on here where I talk about how I moved to Nassau and how God was leading me to move here. And in November 2022, there was no job. There was nothing. It was just God waking me up in the middle of the night saying, I need you to move, and I need you to move now, in a matter of weeks. That happened in October 2022. You know the story. You've seen the video. And so when I got here, I was very confused. I was living on a friend's couch, and I was trying to figure out my next steps. And there was a family member that I thought I would live with, and I was waiting for us to kind of have a conversation about me living with her. So I was staying on my friend's couch, waiting to have a conversation with a family member about living with them. And my parents and a lot of people saying, why did you move? Like, you didn't have a job, you work remotely, so technically you can work from anywhere. I lived very comfortable at home, so why would you move? And I just kept feeling like God told me to move. So I remember staying by my friend, and she lived close to a field. And every morning I would wake up from the couch and I would walk around the field. And it would be like a prayer walk. And I would be walking around the field. Sometimes I would sit down on the field, and I was just like, God, I am desperate to hear from you because I feel like a crazy person. Because I moved, I had nothing sure when I moved. I don't know where I'm about to live. I live on a friend's couch out of a suitcase, and I left a very comfortable home life. And I think I said it on the video, I had some perspectives of jobs that may have worked out that would have required me to be in that city, but none of those were coming to fruition. And in complete transparency, it's almost been a year that I've been here. It's not quite a year yet, and none of them came through. But I knew that God needed me to be here. And that's how I knew that I needed to get deeper spiritually, because I took the opportunity to go deeper and allow God to make me uncomfortable. And I remember God say, write the status on Facebook. And I was like, why? And he said, because if you don't write the status on Facebook, the minute it gets hard, you're going to want to run back. And he's right. Like, the family member that I thought I was going to move in with, it didn't end up happening. And so then I was like, okay, if I'm not moving in with her, and I thought that was a big part of having that, moving in with her was a big part of why I felt like, okay, I'm getting confirmation. And God was like, no, stay. And so I moved in with another family member. Being in an uncomfortable situation isn't always, it's not fun. We don't like it. I don't like it. But I knew that he was calling me deeper. And that time of being uncomfortable forced me to pray more, forced me to have a new perspective about a lot of things that I was going through. And I remember in 2022, I felt God telling me, I need you to shift and focus on doing more production work. And I was just like, oh God, I don't see it coming. And I was trying to make things happen on my own. And I remember just even being so frustrated at some point, I actually got in a car accident. because I was just overwhelmed and trying to work my way into what God wanted me to do. But I was like really silent when he told me to move here, and I was just kind of waiting. And the first 3 months of the year was just kind of waiting on God and sowing into what he had me doing. And literally after the first 3 months, when it comes to my business, God kind of, without me hustling or doing anything, production opportunities came to me. I've had the opportunity to write on a show. I've had an opportunity to be a producer on a show. I've had an opportunity to do training programs, all because God just brought those to me. And so what I want to encourage you is, if God is taking you to a place that's uncomfortable, it's probably because you need to spend more time with him, because you're trying to do too much on your own. And he wants you to be in a more spiritual place. And there's a verse that God has given me, and it's from Psalm 63:1 that says, "Oh God, you are my God. I seek you. My soul thirsts for you. My flesh faints for you, as in a dry and weary land where there is no water." And so when there is no water, when we are searching for God to fill us, we have to remember that verse, that when there's a longing, I thought the longing was for, oh, I want a job and I need to move here, or I need a house, or I need, I thought the longing was for those things. But the minute I just sat still, like I said, every morning I was on that walk talking to God, I realized that what I really needed was communion with God, so that I could be still enough to be able to get in alignment with the job opportunities he had for me, for the living arrangements he had for me in that season. And if you are in a place where you're like, I am in need of having that communion with God because I am trying to do it all on my own, there are 3 things that I want to just quickly tell you that you could do to work on your spiritual health. So one is fasting. And I love what Miles Monroe said. Fasting is not deciding not to eat. It's when you would have normally ate, you replace that time by reading the Word of God. And so instead of picking up food to eat, you pick up the Word of God. So if you go all day and you don't eat, then all you did was not eat for all day. It wasn't a fast, because the meal replacement should be meal replacement with the Word of God. The other thing is praying. And praying doesn't have to be super spiritual, like, oh, I have to be like my Grammy and go on my knees and put my head on the bed. You could do that, because that might help you to be more focused and not go into scrolling on Instagram. It happens, don't judge me. But praying could also be in your car. You can just be driving in your car and you start talking to God and just saying, like, God, I really want you to break down, why do I do this? I noticed that I do this. I don't want to do it anymore. So what's going on? What's the breakthrough? What's the moment? Help me to understand. And just just telling God, I want to know more of you. I want my heart to thirst for you. I want to remove the idols. I want to stop thirsting after work or achievement or success or validation from someone else. It's just being real with God and saying, I want validation from someone else, and I need the validation from you. And then the third thing after prayer, so fasting, praying, and getting a good Bible study. A lot of us don't spend time reading the Word because honestly, we don't understand all that's in there. And so sometimes you need someone to break down, that's what God is doing, and then asking God to show me, okay, I've watched how this person has broken down your Word. Show me how for me to do it in my own way. Just like how we have to go to school to learn how the teachers teach us, sometimes we need to get into a good Bible teaching, Bible study in order for God to work that Word in us. So I just want to encourage you, if you know that your spiritual health is not where you need it to be, my question to you is, are you willing to be uncomfortable enough for God to pour into you spiritually? Can't wait to see you guys next week.